We are very fortunate this morning to have with us Kevin Schreiber, who is the president and the CEO of the York Economic Alliance, as we get ready to move into the yellow phase of recovery on Friday. And you might say, yay, we're finally out of this. It's not quite that simple. And one of the things they have on their website, special website they've been using, preparedyork.com, is a layout of what the yellow phase actually means. And we welcome Kevin in this morning to explain some of that for us and a little bit about business and what's going on here in a couple of segments with him. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Great. Good morning, Gary. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Kevin, always a pleasure to have you aboard. Well, a lot of people, I've said this a lot in the last few days, are thinking, oh, we're in the yellow phase. It's all over. But yellow phase is not green phase. And I wanted to get a few moments here with you this morning to talk a little bit about what yellow phase means, because you've taken time on the preparedyork.com, and I hope people will go to that /reopen to see exactly what the yellow phase is really all about. What does it mean to you from a business standpoint, Kevin?
That's a great way to summarize it, too, Gary, that it is yellow, it's not green. And when people see a yellow light, are you the type of person who speeds up or slows down?
I'm the speed-up guy, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm the speed-up guy, unfortunately. Yeah.
And we're all getting anxious these days, too, so we're all looking to press the gas pedal a little bit. But it is, I mean, first and foremost, it's obviously a significant positive step in the right direction. It's a step forward for our county, certainly for the region. And I really do think it is testament to the sacrifice that's been made by so many business owners, so many individuals. The steps that we have taken as a community have worked. They've put us in a really good place. Our data, I know you have our president commissioner coming on here later this morning. I know she can speak, very affirmatively to the data, and the data suggesting and supporting that your county has really stepped up as a community, take this seriously, and to do all the things necessary to contain the spread of the virus. So what yellow effectively means is it is that step forward. It is a step in the right direction. It is a slow walk towards reopening, and a significant number of our businesses can reopen. So manufacturing can resume operations. It's important to add the disclaimer that the vast majority of businesses who can reopen have to reopen with guidelines in place and restrictions in place, and obviously still adhering to social distancing guidelines to ensure that we continue to do our part to contain the spread of the virus. But you take manufacturing, for example, they can resume operations. Manufacturing as an industry certainly understands employee safety protocols, from steel-toed boots to glasses to hard hats and things of that nature. So, they'll be one that probably has a limited learning curve to get up and running with PPE in place. But then on the flip side, certain retail can reopen. But obviously they have to take special protocols to ensure customers are 6 feet apart, to wipe down counter areas, things of that nature. But I do think it is a positive step forward. And as you noted, we have rolled out as of Friday last week, preparedyork.com/reopen. We've tried to simplify as best as humanly possible what yellow means to York County, what it means to businesses. So if you have questions, the first question on everyone's mind is, what does that mean? Can I reopen? Does this affect me? Does it not affect me? All of, to the best of our ability, all the resources are there. It simplifies it. It tries to break down the industries who are affected, who can reopen, those that still cannot reopen, that remain restricted under a closure order, like movie theaters or hair salons, nail salons, more gathering places.
Gyms,
it also
things
includes
like that,
a great many resources and toolkits. If you are reopening, if you are retail, for instance, if you think of a downtown merchant, they do have to post certain signage just to show that they're adhering to the social distancing guidelines. Many have already come up with their own clever, aesthetically appealing versions of it with the face masks and 6 feet apart, but you still have to post sort of a list of regulations from the state. Think of it almost like a health license. So that's all there. That's all on that site. It's downloadable, including some more graphically designed infographs and signage that you can use, Spanish and English. So we've tried to, again, take one level of anxiety out of your life of having to go source all this material yourself and be the clearinghouse and kind of post it all there in a one-stop shop fashion.
Talking with Kevin Schreiber this morning, the president and CEO of York County Economic Alliance. Kevin, as we come out of this, we're going to start to assess also the economic carnage that has resulted, and particularly in small businesses. And many people have been upset by the waiver situation, the lack of transparency on that. I know Eugene DePasquale is going to be doing an audit of that to see if lobbyists and others influence this kind of thing, where the larger box stores stayed open and a lot of the small businesses that did the same thing closed down. So there is a lot of carnage to be sifted through at the end of this. I just saw the other night a little place over in Manchester, for example, called the Bobcat Creamery that opened and actually hired kids to learn how to work in businesses and so forth, has had to close down, which it was a beautiful little place. And there are a lot of places like that. There are even some larger chain kinds of restaurants and stuff that are closing their doors, probably not to reopen. So I know you're a guy that looks at business all the time and the welfare of York County economically. Your reaction to those kinds of things happening as we start to see, it's kind of like a hurricane going through and all of a sudden coming outside and now looking around to assess the damage.
Yeah, it's a very real tragedy. There is no sugarcoating it. This is a crisis from individual lives affected and forever altered, individuals who have lost loved ones or who had that frightening scare with this virus, to now, as you noted, looking around our community and seeing it's changed. I really do feel like this is one of those pivot moments in American history where we will probably tell our grandkids and our family about this for decades to come. Gary, your recordings of this on a daily basis will be in the Library of Congress because they'll be reviewing it for posterity. And hopefully Ken Burns is making a documentary about this someday. And I jest, but it really is a pivot moment in that, it really feels like the foundations of our society have been forever altered. Yeah. And you're not incorrect. I mean, there's a totally different landscape when we start to come out of this and start to look around at the small businesses who have been forever changed, those who can weather the storm but will be different, those who were unable to weather the storm. We're in the process now, and I've been on the last couple of weeks sharing a lot of the economic data, the impact analysis that we've been reporting on. That's, again, this is a crisis moment. The best we can do is get access to as much information to make informed decisions. We're in the process of updating that data. It's only 3 weeks old, but we know 3 weeks in this crisis feels like a lifetime. It feels like eternity ago. It also was captured just prior to that second round of PPP. So we really want to update that. We're looking to roll out an updated version of that data next Wednesday, almost a week away, at our Economics Club breakfast next Wednesday morning. So next week, I hope to have some more current data for you. Also looks at versions of what recovery looks like in the yellow phase. We were also working on that data before the red, green, yellow phases. But it's heart-wrenching, and the stories that I've heard are really difficult to listen to. There's no I try to remind myself every day there are silver linings in this. We've seen the community respond. We've seen people helping vulnerable populations. We've seen the shift of our business community to answer the PPE call, a la the York Plan in the 40s. So there are silver linings, and there really are things to be optimistic about. But make no mistake, I mean, this is still a crisis. It is a tragedy, and we are still in the thick of it. We aren't, to invoke what you had said early on. I mean, this is a progress moment and a reason to be optimistic, but we still have to take the precautions necessary to not see a resurgence of this virus, to not see a spike in cases, because we all want to get back to some new version of normal, whatever that new version of normal may be.
I have Kevin Schreiber with us this morning, the president and CEO of the York County Economic Alliance. Kevin, I know you're watching the news all the time, and the one thing I've tried to say on this is if people want to put politics in this, it's maybe the most despicable thing we could do during this time. We want to try to find the very best for all people concerned. And yet at the same time, there are very different philosophies on how to go about doing this, and many people are starting to really kind of itch at getting back into the game, the economic game and life, as it were. And you talked about whatever the new normal looks like a moment ago. Of course, Round the Clock Diner has been one of the chief stories here lately, which opened 2 Sundays ago, has been warned, and now more and more people are coming there as a result. We've seen some other places like a barber shop up in Mechanicsburg. There are other places that are opening up and just saying, I've had it. I can't make it any further. I can't pay my bills. What am I going to do? What do you say to people like that? I'm sure you probably get some of the questions and people saying, what am I going to do if my business is dead when I come back to it. It's a real concern that people have right now. Your thoughts about all that?
Yeah, this is unquestionably again another moment where we start to feel threadbare and worn as a community, and it really does pull at both sides. The fabric of the community is really stretched thin on this. I think there really is a challenge, and we are American. Protest and the ability to question authority is baked into our DNA, so I get that. There's also the responsibility to do that civilly, to do that responsibly, and to not put others in jeopardy. And this is one of those situations and scenarios where all it takes is a cough or a sneeze. It's not exclusive to your own personal safety or your own personal beliefs. A cough and a sneeze can immediately infect me or several others. So, it really is a challenge. We obviously do not advocate anyone violate the law. We do not advocate that anyone defy, the stay-at-home order right now. I think it's, I think it was said by someone, you can revive a business, you can't revive a person. But I get it. We're all getting antsy. My wife has a small business. She's, in a very similar predicament, and make no mistake, I hear it frequently. It is a very challenging time right now. There's sacrifice that's being asked of all and being made by all. And to your question of, resources, I think it's been very positive, and another, silver lining that our Congress and our state governments have mobilized quickly to meet the demands and meet the needs of people. But it's not been a need out there. And, I've noted our data. Our data had suggested before the second wave of PPP that upwards of 80% of businesses in York County were unable to obtain the benefit of the PPP program. So it's hard to believe that $3 trillion is not enough, and now we're talking another $3 trillion. So I'm sure that'll change significantly as it goes through the Senate. But I do think there is still a very real financial need for individuals, for businesses out there. There's a restart need for those who have weathered the storm. We're in communication now and have been working to try to coalesce a restart loan fund. And I think the other challenge is, short of PPP, much of this has been about incurring debt. So we're all asking small businesses to weather the storm, make it through, but, they come out of it with more debt and maybe an inured credit report. So I think it is a real challenge. I think we need to ensure that the resources that are being mustered for this, and they are, limited, are getting to the right businesses and the right people, and, particularly those who are independently owned or are the mom and pop shops, our Main Street businesses who have, largely been boxed out of some of the federal resources. And hopefully there's more to come, and hopefully this next round of legislation really does try to answer the restart need, because we know people have effectively exhausted their capital reserves, whatever little capital reserves they may have had. And now coming out of this, we'll have to ramp up, and that means inventory, that means payroll, that means people, and there's a very real cost to that.
And again, you can go to preparedyork.com to check out a lot of the questions, including the reopening this coming Friday, and see what yellow means for you and your business. I guess one of the things that a lot of us kind of root for here a little bit, and unfortunately, you've been in the political game before, Kevin. You were representative for a while, so you know how all this works. But many people have said, well, and I talked to a lot of representatives, both Democrat and Republican last week, who to a person said it's time for the governor and the legislature to work together on this, okay? And I think that would be the clamor a lot of us would have, that, we're supposed to be all working together for one purpose, which is the benefit of the people here who are, in fact, the government. We're simply representing them. And I would hope that that's going to be the case as we start to move forward, although there has not been that close working together so far. Didn't want to make any of this political, and it's not meant to be political, but just your observations on that from a business standpoint. About a minute left.
And boy, wouldn't that be the encore to this, the denouement, to be able to say that, in crisis, we were brought together as a nation. It's not partisan, even though there is politics and politicians involved.
Right.
At the end of the day, we are still people, and we are talking about life, safety, welfare, individuals, and businesses. So, I more than any would long for the day that we can see some bipartisanship occur in the Congress and at the state level. And I think there are signs of it. There's hints of it. But of course, we still live in this day in this society where it's so easy to weaponize words and use narrative and social media as a weapon to divide rather than unite. I do think, when you look to the local level, to the county levels, you are seeing that laboratory of innovation, the spirit of democracy occur. You are seeing bipartisanship because they have no other choice but to be bipartisan to get things done. So when in doubt, we can always look to our local leaders who I think are moving the needle forward and are, just trying to work on solutions. I wish sometimes we could take the theater out of politics and just get down to policy. And that's really, ultimately, I think, in the best interest of all.
Well, yeah, anytime, politics to me is always win and lose. Policy is win and win. And we're supposed to be winning for all the people, and that's the big thing. Kevin, always good to have you on. I hope people will go to preparedyork.com, check out what yellow means, and also some of the other resources that you have there. We appreciate what you're trying to do to move people forward. We'll continue to stay in contact and continue to get updates, and hopefully next week we can talk a little. Well, next week we're not going to be here, but the following week we can talk a little bit more about some of the things that are being done, and hopefully green is somewhere on the horizon, so we'll find out more about that. Kevin, thanks so much for the hard work.
Great to be with you, Gary. Thank you.